supposed to? Right here? Okay. All right.
How are you, Lisa?
Doing well. Doing well. Glad to be in Arizona.
Where are you shopping today?
Up north and down east. Safford, Thatcher.
Yes.
All right, we good? All right, there's been some news with regard to Graham-Cassidy today. A few senators, including Senator McCain, have announced opposition to it. I just wanted to say that I'm still in favor of it. I hope that we can get it across the finish line. A lot of Arizonans are hurting. They have needed relief. Obamacare has not worked well for them. I fully understand that some people have picked up coverage with Obamacare, but a lot of Arizonans have lost it as well. And Graham-Cassidy would allow governors and the state legislature, those who are closest to the people, to change the program in ways that would make it more efficient and cover more individuals. That's what we're trying to do. And so that's why I still support it. I hope we can pass it.
Can you respond to being in support of it, like your colleague in the Senate, Mr. McCain? He's opposed to it for a couple of reasons.
Right.
One, because of this, there's no CBO score yet. So how do you justify that?
We're going to get a CBO score, a partial score tomorrow, on Monday, is my understanding. So we'll see. CBO scores, obviously, it's important to know what the costs are. They aren't exactly reliable. We had a lot of promises made when Obamacare was passed with regard to the CBO score and what the costs would be per individual. That didn't come to pass. Obviously, the promises that if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor, those kind of promises simply weren't kept. And so, like I said, in Arizona, it's really tough. We just got the latest figures in terms of how much the individual mandate is affecting Arizonans. 155,000 Arizonans woke up this past year without any insurance, but had to pay the fine to the federal government because they could not afford insurance. A lot of them had coverage prior to Obamacare coming along, and their insurer pulled out or priced their policies far too high for them to reach. An equal or greater number may have insurance coverage, but they can't afford to use it because co-pays and deductibles are so high. And I hear from them every day. I'm hearing from those Arizonans who need relief.
And how do you know this is better?
Oh, anytime you have the government closer to the people that can run a program like this, it tends to be more efficient. If you take, for example, welfare reform in 1996, I believe it was passed. I wasn't in the Congress at that time, but I remember well the hue and cry out there that this would be awful. There'd be people dying on the streets. The governors couldn't run this program, that it would be death and destruction, and it would be a race to the bottom. That didn't turn out to be the case. In fact, they ran it much more efficiently. Within 2 years or so, the welfare rolls have been cut in half. A lot more people were working and in a better situation. And the TANF payments, or payments for welfare reform, which were not on a sustainable basis, became sustainable after that. So the examples we've had there and in other areas is that government closer to the people runs these programs better.
There have been some studies that have shown that Arizona would receive fewer federal dollars under this proposal. How do you explain your support for the measure given that?
There are some studies that show that. There are some studies that show the opposite. Some of the studies that show that Arizona would receive less don't take into account some of the cost-sharing subsidies and other block-granted programs that would be there for them. But the likelihood is that these programs would be run more efficiently. Just take Arizona right now. We have our version of Medicaid is called Access. Arizona runs it far more efficiently than some other states have done because we do it on a capitated basis, and we've been through this before. So I'm confident that the governor, with increased flexibility, and the state legislature can find ways to even make it more affordable for individuals out there. And I can tell you the fact that the governor is in favor of this, he just put out a statement saying that he still hopes that it passes, tells me that he's confident as well, that he can do better.
Do you think this is the best plan you guys can come up with?
I think so, before the 30th. I mean, we're in a time crunch now. Another problem that we have is if we don't reform this program in January of next year, 90,000 businesses will receive a letter from the IRS with the employer fine for not providing coverage. They've been exempted so far. They won't be any longer. I think those fines will total between $4 and $5 billion. And so that's coming. So that, from when I hear from people that this is working well now, I can tell you it's not. And that's what I'm hearing from Arizonans everywhere.
Senator, once again, we find ourselves with access as the seemingly the working model of Medicare. Why are other states not paying attention to what we're doing here in Arizona? Or is Washington not looking at the Arizona model and going, let's take this and see if it would work everywhere else?
Frankly, a lot don't pay attention because they don't have to, because they are getting payments based on what they have spent in the past. And when you look at Medicaid right now, 5 states are spending 40% of Medicaid spending. And there are a couple of the big states, but they don't equal 40% of the population. They just are taking the lion's share of the funding. That will be equalized over time, as it should be.
Now, one of a lot of people's biggest concerns with replacing
Right.
Obamacare is their thoughts that people with pre-existing conditions don't have much to look forward to. What are your thoughts on that, and how pre-existing conditions are covered
Right.
with Graham-Cassidy's proposal?
With the Graham-Cassidy proposal, if a state wants to get a waiver from offering an essential benefits plan or protections there, they have to demonstrate that they're achieving the goals of Obamacare, which is no penalty for a pre-existing condition, or they won't get the waiver. So there are prohibitions in place there. And let me just tell you, overall, people would say that there's no guarantee that with the states running the programs that pre-existing conditions would be covered. The same could be said now. There's no constitutional guarantee for pre-existing conditions to be covered, but the Congress has made the decision we're going to do that. I can tell you, state legislatures and governors will make the same decision. There's simply no way now that you're going to have states that will say, we're going to allow insurance companies to discriminate based on pre-existing conditions in a way that would lead to members of that state or citizens of that state not being able to get coverage. Politicians, elected officials respond. And the bottom line is, the closer the government is to the people, the better and more efficiently these programs are generally run. And we need that with this program. Over time, Medicaid, just like Medicare, unless we have reforms, is unsustainable. We simply can't continue to have the increases that we've seen in the past unless we make some changes. We just can't.
Senator, can you respond to the Department of Homeland Security's announcement today that Arizona's election system was in fact hacked by the Russians in 2016?
I haven't seen those reports. I've been around the state elsewhere, so I'd have to look at them first.
Your colleague John McCain said he'd like to see a bipartisan effort to reform health care. Why don't you think that's a feasible option?
I think that by far is the best option. And believe me, to have a sustainable solution over time, it needs to be bipartisan. And if Graham-Cassidy was being cast as the be-all, end-all piece of legislation, that simply wouldn't be right. It's not. This is the first step in what I hope will be hearings and markups and regular order to fix parts of the system that need fixing. That needs to happen. And I admire Senator McCain for standing up again and again and again for regular order. In this case, Obamacare was put in with just Democratic support, no Republican support at all. Democrats have paid the price politically ever since that time. Now we have it. Obamacare is here. We've been trying for the past year to try to get some Democrats to come forward and actually help us make reforms, significant reforms that are going to be needed. We haven't been able to get that support yet. I think we'll get it in the future, but right now, Arizonans are hurting. I hear from them. I'm responding to them. And so I hope that after Graham-Cassidy passes, that we can sit down and in a bipartisan way make other tweaks or changes to the program that will make it sustainable in the long term.
Do you believe that Americans should have to wonder whether or not their insurance
And that's what's happening right now with no changes to the program. Right now, if you're in Arizona, in 14 of 15 counties, there's one insurer. Arizonans go to sleep every night wondering if that insurer is going to pull out. That's the situation right now. And they shouldn't have to live like that. And if you look at the cost of people who are buying on the exchange, Arizona is ground zero for the failure of the healthcare exchange to hold down prices. In every county in Arizona, in all 15, an average family of 4 is paying more for their healthcare premium than they are for their mortgage. More for their healthcare premium than they are for their mortgage. In much of Arizona, in most counties, it's significantly more. In a couple of counties, it's double. Double the cost of your healthcare premium than you're paying for your mortgage. And beyond that, once you're paying that premium, you still have to afford the care. And those families are getting to a hospital and then realizing what their copays and deductibles are, and realize they can't even afford the insurance that they have, can't afford to use it. So I take your point completely that Arizonans and other Americans shouldn't have to go to bed at night worrying whether health care is going to be there. That's the situation right now. That's the situation we're trying to make better.
So, Senator, towards the end of September, we're talking about once this goes into effect with the block grants, that Arizona's going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars versus what they had in previous years.
I don't know. Off the top, what Graham-Cassidy does is just take the cost-sharing subsidies and other subsidies they're paying now and convert them into a block grant, and then additionally have some other block grants for other programs that the state wants to employ. So I don't think that there's any fear that Arizona off the bat, or any state, because we're simply converting money that's being spent now to a block grant formula and doing it differently.
The JLBC, the Joint Legislative Budget Committee here, looked at it in the last day or so.
My understanding is that they weren't taking into account some of the cost-sharing subsidies that are going to be provided, or some of the other block grants. Thank you.
What's the way forward now? There hasn't been a vote scheduled yet that we know of.
We'll see this week. The leader intended, he said, to bring it to a vote this week, and it's more difficult path now, but we'll see.
Personally, is it time to tell John McCain to get on board, or do you feel that his actions are being obstructionist, working counter to what the rest of the party, or at least the rest of the elected officials are trying to do?
My job is to worry about my vote, and I respect John McCain a lot, and I'll let him decide his own vote. But anyway, I respect him a lot. Thank you much.
Thank you, Senator.
Appreciate it. Thanks for coming out.